are live. We are live, man. We are live. Y'all excuse me, man. This pollen is like out of nowhere. I was surviving. I thought I didn't have allergies no more. But this week, we started out crazy. I got like my sinuses is going crazy, so I'm gonna sound like I'm crying the whole time. But it's another weekly market outlook. Um, One of the main reasons, that I be so confident in the markets, um, and it's definitely an interesting week. I think it's definitely a busy week, probably coming up. Um, so let's go ahead and get into it, man. Let's go ahead and get into it. I mean, it's April 2nd, so the second quarter is officially started of the year, right? So we'll take a look at what's transpired during the first quarter, price action wise, and because I like to pay attention to how the market is moving in quarters, right? I think like just like how we have different sessions during the day, and just like we have different weeks during a month, and different days during the week. The quarters are the parts that I like to pay attention to, a month, on a year-to-year basis. So that's the first thing we'll check out. Well, after the news, right? So first thing we'll check out, we'll go ahead and check out what's going on with the news. Let me switch our cameras over. Okay. Let's take a look at what's going on with the news this week. So, as far as three-star news, we already had some JPY news go down today. 750. Some AUD news dropped at 9:30, and that was actually lower than previous, higher than forecasted, but lower than the previous. So that, I mean, even though it's green here, you want to pay attention to the actual versus the previous, not the actual versus the forecast, right? So the actual versus the previous were a lot lower. So, excuse me, that's something to pay attention to. Probably want to start paying attention to this Chinese yuan now that they starting to make these moves that we'll go ahead and talk about. Um, Tomorrow we got a Chinese holiday tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow we got a Chinese holiday. We got Euro news at 4 a.m. tomorrow. Dollar news at 10 a.m. Okay. So we'll take a look at EU, of course. I think we have NFP this week. First week of the month. We're gonna have a lot of we got interest rates for Australia droppings this week, and they definitely will be raising those Jones, as well as New Zealand. New Zealand getting up to the dollar, 5% more. So we got 10 a.m. news Monday, 10 a.m. news Tuesday, 10 a.m. news Wednesday, and after Wednesday you want to probably reduce risk and really pay attention to what you got going on, especially if you're a beginner, because going into NFP, you always want to be paying attention, right? Ironically, we have a bank holiday this Friday at the same time as non-farm payroll and unemployment. I wonder how that'll affect the markets. That's interesting. You shouldn't be looking forward to non-farm payroll anyway, as Michael calls it, not for professionals. But yeah, fake non-farm payroll on Wednesday. Thursday, USD news at 8:30 a.m. So yeah, it's looking like we'll be having a pretty I'll say volatile week, right? Pretty volatile week. And I'll definitely be taking a look at the cryptos, as well. So yeah, as and what's been going on this past week or so, right? U.S. dollar. Let's look up some news, right? Check this out. All right, I'm not gonna dive like heavily into what's going on with the news and with the dollar and everything, but I do want to just kind of like make a point, right? I do kind of want to just clarify some things, right? And so boom, we're gonna do that, right? Oh, so you still cannot see. Let me switch this. Right? So when we look at what's going on US dollar wise, all right, and the news that's been coming out, you know me, I like to observe the masses and do the opposite. Right? That's how I like to trade. I like to observe the masses and do the opposite. I've been low key beefing with people, fake beefing, because I don't really beef with nobody, right? But we low key been my Instagram. I asked them who thinks the US dollar is gonna go up this week and who thinks it's gonna go down. Everybody and they mama voted that the US dollar is gonna go down this week. And I say all the time, observe the masses and do the opposite. And it just be so it's obvious stuff like that, right? But again, I don't know anything specific, but let's look at some of the news forecasts, right? Economic experts issue a dire warning on serious threat faced by the US dollar. It's inevitable. Really? I don't remember financial experts warning us when Silicon Valley Bank was going to crash. Right? How all of a sudden they're so elite at identifying that the US dollar is inevitably going to crash. Right? Gold bears struggle to keep the reins ahead of the US non-farm payroll. Gold dips stronger, dollar dampens appeal, de-dollarization, countries seeking alternatives to the US dollar. Elon Musk sounds the alarm about the US dollar. Chinese yuan is globalizing, but only Washington can dethrone the dollar. I like that. Right? Status of the dollar, slow long-term decline on track. Markets Q2. Okay, yeah, not too much, but you'll notice, right? There's a lot of talk about the dollar dropping, right? It's a lot of talk about the dollar dropping, right? The end of the US dollar as global reserve currency. China just broke the US dollar. Like it's like, come on guys. It's just there's just too much, like when it's on the first page like that, it's just too much promotion of the dollar crashing. Like, y'all understand, you live in America, they don't even want TikTok here. You think they gonna have all these cats promoting that the US dollar is finna crash if the US dollar is really finna crash? Now again, I could not know what I'm talking about. The dollar could be about to crash, right? Y'all tap in. Let me know where y'all tapping in from in the chat. You feel me? For those of y'all that's hopped on here, right? But I could be wrong, right? I could just be, throwing stones, etc., etc. But in my, I don't. I'm just in my opinion when I look at news, just looking at news. Yeah, like that's just again, I like to observe what the masses are thinking and do the opposite. You got to remember 95% of people are consistently profitable in the markets. I'm sorry, 95% of people, 5% of people are consistently profitable in the markets, right? 5% of people are at any given one time right in the markets. Like at one time, like forget over somebody's career. At one time, somebody's taking a trade, 5% of people are actually, consistent or, winning in a specific moment, when a trade happens. You feel me? So when the market's moving up, 5% of people are in the right direction. Okay. So if the majority of people are looking for the dollar to drop, it's just a little bit too obvious for me. Right now, let's go ahead and take a look at the charts, and let's start off on the dollar as usual. Start off on my higher time frame as usual. I'm gonna wipe my chart. Right now, we've seen 1, 2, 3 weeks now of bearishness on the dollar. We last saw them go ahead and trade below this low over here to the left, and they did a nice little liquidity sweep. That's what we call these, liquidity sweep. And now we're trading into this fair value gap that was left from here. Right, which would be from this candle here to this candle here. Okay, and if you want to make it more precise, you could go based off the wick. All right, you could bring it down to the wick. Boom. Right? If you want to make it even more precise, right? And look at where the markets closed last week, right? Markets closed right at the top of that fair value gap, right? We saw them really dig into there, okay, right? That markets were as low as down here. This was the lows, and then we ended up closing above the fair value gap, closing above the fair value gap. So this is a key area. I'm until we break past close below this again. Until we close below this, honestly, I am expectant of a bullish dollar. Especially like I said, with all this news going on and everybody saying, yeah, the dollar's 100% gonna, like, that's crazy to me, right? That there's still people saying that something is 100% gonna happen. I'm not even telling you 100% the dollar's gonna go up, but just think about how many people are just so certain that, like, they're certain that it's gonna go down. And that means that if people are certain the dollar is going to go down, that means they're also certain that stocks are going to go up. Crypto is going to go up, right? That means they're also certain about that. So I'm looking to see liquidity sweeps go on, right? I'm looking to see liquidity sweeps. At the end of the day, if sellers are coming into the market for the dollar, right? If sellers are coming in, where would those sellers be having their stop losses, right? If people are expecting the dollar to drop from here, right, where would they be having their stop losses? Probably up here above liquidity, right? Probably up there above that daily buy side liquidity. Okay, like if I was somebody who's looking to take a trade, this looks like boom, break, retest, boom. Yeah, I'm trying to get in just like this right here. It's a perfect area, right? And so I would expect there is liquidity up here. I mean, you guys should know that if you've been studying, right? There's liquidity up there. There's orders, pending orders, stop losses, people who have buy limits there because they're looking to enter sells, all of that jazz, right? So we got some buy side liquidity up there that I would expect the markets go ahead and hunt and be like drawn to. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna just like ignore the trend. You feel me? The markets have been trending down. Like I said, I am aware of what's going on with the news, but this right here, this gap right here is kind of like that last zone of quote unquote support that I would be, expecting or looking to see the dollar drop into. And react from, right? Again, it's non-farm payroll this week. Would not be surprised to see really aggressive movements out of certain areas. Okay, so it's definitely a week to be aware. Let me drop down to the 4 hour. Right, definitely want to be aware this week. Right, definitely want to be aware. Last week we opened up right over here last week. Dang, and honestly, hold on, before I even go into last week, let's look at the quarter. All right, I love looking at the quarter. And when I say the quarter, I'm gonna break it up. All right. All right, so quarter one is January to March 31st is Q1. All right, so we'll put Q2 there. All right, Q1. And then July, right? April, May, June. Yep, so July 1st is Q3. And then Q4 would be October. October 1st would be Q4. All right, so I like to pay attention to these. All right, and then of course, January of this year would be Q1. And as you know, we just went ahead and finished Q1, right? Literally, like our last day was Friday, right? Friday was the last day of the first quarter of the year. Now let's take a look at how the market's kind of been transpiring in these quarters. So going back to the first quarter of last year, right? The market had all of last year was bullish, right? Last year was a bullish year. Markets dropped lower in the first quarter and gave the low of the year, right? Gave the low of the year. And then we saw the markets trade higher in the first quarter, right? And then we saw the markets trade higher in the second quarter, right? Gave the low, gave a low of the second quarter, which is where we just dropped below before we took off, right? And then they went ahead and headed higher, gave a high, and then we gave the low of the third quarter. And then going into Q4 is where we see the markets hopped out and they took profits. Makes sense going into the holidays, right? They don't want to be in the markets actively. So we saw a retracement in the fourth quarter, right? So we saw the year move, right? We saw them start off like first 2 weeks, we saw them trade lower, and then we saw them go ahead and just go higher for the entire rest of the year. All right, now first quarter of this year, right? We went ahead, traded lower, okay, but we got a higher high in the first quarter. All right, got a higher high, right? This high of the first quarter was higher than the beginning of the first quarter here, and also higher than the end of the first of, and also higher than December, right? Also higher than December. Actually, we traded right up to the high of December, right? And then we saw them trade back lower. Okay, similar to kind of how last year started off trading lower, right? And then what? Gave a higher high, right? And then a higher low, and then we saw them continue up, right? Now that was in the first quarter, similar type of time, right? We saw them give a higher low. I mean, they gave the low, right? They gave the low of the year in the beginning of February, right when the interest rate was raised. And then we saw them trade up, give a higher high, and now we see them trading back down, giving us a potential area for a higher low. You know what I'm saying? So quarters are very interesting. And with that being said, it can kind of show me that if we're going to kind of follow the same type of movement, right? And if we just went ahead and liquidated here from second quarter of last year, kind of using that as like a trampoline, this is our higher high. Somewhere in here, I'm looking to see the markets form, a higher low, essentially, right? This would be our higher, our liquidity sweep, higher low on this whole move. And then the trade higher, and then this high here, this point the market came to is higher than here, and probably just about the same area as there, right? So definitely want to pay attention to this. And these are pretty much like a double top. It's pretty much kind of like a double top. And I know in the retail world, it's a double top is like a sell confirmation or a continuation confirmation. For me, there's liquidity above those double tops, right? That's what it means to me, right? It means that there is orders sitting up here, right? Stop losses, buy limits, pending orders, all that jazz sitting up there. So this is kind of like what I have my eyes on. Now, Friday was bullish. Friday was bullish, even though last week we kind of just BS. Friday was bullish. We see this today has opened up bullish, which is suspicious to me. Whenever we open up in a specific direction, I expect the market to kind of build out in the opposite direction, kind of give us the high of the day and then trade lower, because there's not even a wick on this candle to the downside, as you can see. So I feel like there's unfinished business that they can handle down there, and would love to see this low get liquidated, right? Just see them spike down below this and then trade back higher. So that's kind of what I'm anticipating for the dollar is, yeah, like we seeing them go bullish right now. seeing them trade give that bullish action right now, to then see them actually trade lower and then see a reversal sometime in the week for a continuation higher. That's what I would like to see on the dollar, just to put it like that. And the open of this week on dollar, just like to always map that out, was right here. Right, that was the open of the week. So yeah, we'll definitely keep the eyes open. But as you can see, right, we've been in a heavy downtrend. Um, we saw them give an institutional buy up from this zone. Then we saw them give this low, and they did trade below this low. But whenever I see, I would have loved if this was like just a wick, down below this low. Let me actually check this out on the higher time frame real quick. Right? Yeah, I would have loved if it was just a wick. But when I see the price trade below a zone or above a zone with conviction, it really makes me really gives me continuation vibes. So again, until I see a higher low formed, or until I see them close above this buy side liquidity, I'm not ready to just go against the market and say the dollar is ready to go the opposite direction yet. You feel me? Until I see that. So just being patient, especially again, it's NFP. Definitely want to just be patient and be careful. Now, with that being said, markets traded back to the gap that we had at the beginning of last week. They traded right into that and closed literally right at the top of that gap. Very interesting, which you could also argue is kind of a bit of a. We could delete these, or I could put them on a higher time frame only. Right, but yeah, this here is the premium, right? This is the premium of all of pretty much last week's price action, right? Last week we literally opened up and traded lower. Literally, this was the low of the week, this was the high of the week. Just me putting a fib on that price action. We're right now in the premium of that area, like where sellers would be enticed, and you can see we traded into it here, wicked away, right? So I'm just pointing out the things that I'm paying attention to that are giving me an idea of price's footprint. All right, I don't claim to be fully aware of what the markets are going to do, especially on a Sunday. So that's just kind of what I'm paying attention to. Right now we're in this premium zone, so it's either we get a strong rejection away from here because the sellers come into the market, or they get overran and this whole thing gets wiped, and we have to pay attention to how this liquidity gets treated. Do we just get a blast through on this, or do we get slight, kind of like similar to this compared to this? Like, do we just get a wick above it, and then you see what happens after the wick, right? They fall off. So that's what I'm paying attention to, is how we actually react in this zone, and depending on how we react in this zone will kind of give me a better idea going into tomorrow of how I want to respond with the markets. But overall, I do have a bullish bias on the markets. I'm just putting that out there. Overall, I do have a bullish bias on the markets. Well, on the dollar. And interestingly enough, going down to the 1 hour time frame, we did see them go ahead and give a right here. Let me put a box on it. Boom, right here. We can see that price, right? Before this big takeoff, we saw them give a low, and then we saw them sweep that low before they took off, right? And then once they took off, where did they come back into? The fair value gap. Okay, boom, order block here. You could just go based off that area right there, but just to be kind, we can go right there. And so this is literally what I'm looking for on a higher time frame. All right, price wicks below, a previous level, doesn't close below it, closes above it, but it wicks below it. And then we see a massive aggression, and then this move back into the fair value gap is what I want to see, right? Same thing on the daily time frame, right? Same thing on the daily time frame. This is the low that wicked below this low. It's more of a wick on the weekly, right? Where you can see they wicked into the low. And then now on the weekly time frame, what are we trading into? The fair value gap, right? So from here, I'm looking for the bulls to come in this thing and let them know what's going on, man. That's what I'm looking to see. So yeah, the hourly time frame. Yeah, with the hourly, I got my eyes on that buy side liquidity up here. Right? That's what I got my eyes on, especially the way that we held these levels. And then seeing this, yeah, that kind of gives me what I need to see. And then on an hourly, seeing them actually go ahead and close above these highs. I'm so sorry, guys, right? Seeing them close above these highs. Again, if it's just a wick, then I'll be like, oh yeah, no, they won't go the other direction. But seeing them push up with that conviction, I want to see them actually go ahead and keep that momentum now that they've closed above this buy side liquidity. The next zone of liquidity for them to attack would be, pretty much this high here, or going all the way to up here would be the next area of liquidity. So that's what I want to pay attention to on seeing the dollar do, is forming itself to go ahead and attack that zone. Now, with that being said, take a look at girl NASDAQ, right? Yeah, we was eating NASDAQ up. Now, again, starting on the daily or even starting on the weekly, I mean, just to be fair, NASDAQ, I mean, I'm gonna have to at least see NASDAQ run this buy side liquidity up here. There's just nothing in the way, right? There's nothing between where Nas is right now and this high. There's no lows, there's no resistance, no nothing. So like all we have is a bullish market that has conviction right now, and this is the only thing in this way, right? So I definitely want to see how we respond getting up here. So that's kind of the level that I'm looking at. I don't see them slowing down. Boom, on the daily, saw them close higher with conviction here. So yeah, definitely want to see them, continue aggressively. So potentially what I'll do is I can look for, boom, right here, liquidity sweep, right? You seen them, we saw here, they dropped down below these lows. So just maybe paying attention in this fair value gap. Right, paying attention in that. Right. Also, right inside this is, fair value gap. Also, you have this previous mitigation candle. Right. And ironically, I already have an alert there for some reason, but we're going to put that thing right there. Right. Put that thing right there. We're going to be aware. We're going to be aware going into this week. So now I go ahead and go down to the lower time frame. I think these zones are pretty accurate. What's going to be important is at what time or day do we reach these zones, because that will tell me a lot. So that's a very, like, this was just a phenomenal phenomenal move higher. Caught the bottom of it, did not catch this whole move. That would have been great though. Excuse me. So looking here on this hourly time frame, remember this is our target up here. So many ways to attack that target. Um, and the thing is that I don't even need to be in it the whole route up there, because I mean that's a very big opportunity. I mean we talking 600 points pretty much. So it's even multiple opportunities inside of that. If you know, for example, you're a scalper or something of that nature. So what I want to pay attention to on NAS is I want to pay attention to the confluence with NAS and the dollar. Let me take out US 30 as well. Same thing with US 30. I just don't feel like there's a reason for them to stop right here. Sorry. All right. So yeah, I just same thing with US 30. Even though like this is I like the way US 30 is shaping up bearishly, and you know you can actually see we actually having some indice divergence, some smart money divergence here on Nasdaq and US 30. Typically they trend together, but we're seeing that Nasdaq is giving uh higher highs, right? Higher highs and higher lows here since the beginning of the quarter, pretty much. And looking at US 30, right, since the beginning of the quarter, we're getting lower highs and lower lows, right? So definitely want to pay attention to the way that these guys, you know, how hard Nas is about to drop. Definitely want to pay attention, right? Definitely want to be paying attention. I think we maybe even just get, like I said, want to pay attention to how we get here. But I would expect a wick. That's what I would expect, a wick on the daily or something of that nature. Just a quick visit up there, especially the way that US 30 is starting to look, right? So definitely want to pay attention to that. Got some divergence on US 30. Let me write that down. And then let's look at SBX just to compare. All right, just to compare SBX as well, right? Lower high, and lower low so far. So far, we got lower highs and lower lows on SBX, but it's definitely way more just obvious and pronounced on US 30. Let's go to the weekly. Hmm. And then the hourly, we almost at that buy side on US 30. Almost reached that level. So yeah, I want to see how that reaction is. Let me go ahead and set an alert right there. 33,400. Right. So yeah, I want to see them trade up to that buy side. So if I'm in position, you know, like going into tomorrow or Tuesday, and I'm able to find me some buy opportunities up to those levels, then I will. But ideally, I want to be in position, to see how we react in that area for the turnaround, right? Especially if we expecting the dollar to go higher. Boom, right here and probably in this zone. I'll pay attention to what time around it is that we get back to that level. Yep, 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 yep. So that's on NASDAQ. That's about the 1300, 13,000 level. We'll keep my eyes on the 13,000 level. So that's NASDAQ. Again, even looking at the quarter for NASDAQ, very bullish quarter. It's a very bullish quarter. It's almost like they're getting people's hopes up, you know? Almost. It's almost like they're getting their hopes up. So yeah, we'll stay tuned on that. I put my alerts down. Let me move this one up because it's from an old one. And we will pay attention. We shall pay attention. NASDAQ, NASDAQ, NASDAQ. Dirty NASDAQ, man. Yeah. Love to see them trade down there and respond from there. So that's NASDAQ. Gold and silver. Now, ironically, I think that even though gold and silver tend to do the opposite of the dollar, as you can see, the dollar's pushing up right now, gold and silver are dropping. But I just have this feeling that with the war and all this stuff going on, metals are going to be very important. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them actually start converging because I still believe the dollar is going to go higher. I don't think that these currencies switching around is going to drive it lower at this very moment. But these metals, I mean, the price will increase because we gotta build guns, gotta build weapons, bombs, a lot of electric or batteries need gold, you feel me? Things of that nature. So I actually would not be surprised to see them go ahead and just start to, take off when it comes to silver and gold. Right? Just definitely want to be aware. Let's see what gold got going on. I don't really. Interesting. So gold. Gold actually last week swept the buy side liquidity already. We saw them trade above higher right here. Saw them trade above higher here and then trade lower. They came back up to it, traded lower. Man, look at that. It's crazy. What time did that activate? 5 a.m. Yeah, because after they snatched that buy side, gave a lower low like that, yeah, that was, man, yeah, that was ideal. I was slipping. What time did that happen? 8 a.m. Yeah, I didn't trade Friday. Makes sense. But yeah, that was, you could see how elite that move was. But it's literally the same thing I'm pointing out on the dollar. Right? They swept buy side liquidity, traded away, came back to the fair value gap, right? And then rejected. Same move I want to see happen on the US dollar this week. Well, this week, coming weeks, whatever the case is. So yeah, gold kind of like giving the tell. It's kind of giving the tell away, but yeah, I do see these guys continuing lower. I do see them continuing lower. We'll see how they respond, like in this area they're at right now because they did drop here before and then they just like rejected away. So let's see how they want to compete here. Like, are you gonna close below, whatever the case is, because that'll give me an idea more so for how bearish are we? Like, is this just a pullback or is this like for real, like maybe reversal action going on? And if it is gonna be a continuation or if this is gonna be a reversal, then it would just be a matter of like identifying the target, targets like where do I see the market going to and where do I want to take it to, and then from there where do I want to get in with it. And I'll probably just off looking with my eyes. Pay attention to this area right here. All right, so potentially seeing them trade back up into that fair value gap. However, however, like I said, I want to see this close lower first though. Like I want to see them complete the mission and close lower. What do we got? 2 hours left on this candle. If I wake up tomorrow and we never really closed under this, then that invalidates this whole thing. But if we get a close lower on this zone or close lower on a zone like this, then yeah, I would just want to see the market pull back and go ahead and look for an execution somewhere in this level. What is that? How many stop loss? Like it's like oh yeah, that's 144 stop. If you a swing trader, right? Clearly I'm not a swing trader, so I ain't gonna use the 4 hour for my setup. But just wanted to give you guys some context, right? So I would just clearly wait for them to trade back into that area, and then I would activate. Or if I was feeling really saucy, then I would take the trades um myself. You feel me? So yeah, let me see. And when I said take the trades myself, take it. I would take the buys back up to that zone if I'm feeling really saucy. Yeah, look at that gold going, man. Gold is drizzling, and the dollar ain't even moving that hard. It's the interesting thing. Now let's check out UJ. UJ typically moves the opposite direction of gold, and we already did have news today. I had this on UJ. We lost out down here, but this same thing, same thing, perfect. But I don't believe I was. Yeah, boy, it wasn't trading Friday morning, but that was smooth. These guys consolidating just a little bit. Start on the daily. Interesting. So the year started about right here. Right. So the year opened right there. Right. So we traded up. We took the liquidity here, traded lower, came back into the fair value gap, literally dropped down below. It looks like similar to the dollar. That second quarter, I guess it was the third quarter here, that third quarter low, right? We saw them trade below that. Um, and then we saw aggressive price action away from that zone. Even though it wasn't just a wick, even on a weekly, it wasn't like a wick. Like they really traded down into that joint. They really traded all the way down into it. And then we saw them trade away, right, from there. And then they only wicked the high. They being a little bit suspicious right now. I'm gonna give you that, UJ. You being a little suspicious. Excuse me. But at the end of the day, yeah, this was the open of the year. We saw them trade a bit higher, trade below, and then boom, we got a higher high. And then we're seeing the market trade back lower into what? Higher low, which also just so happens to be have traded back below this low over here. Right? Literally traded back below that low, took whatever they needed to take, and then we got what? Acceleration up out of there. So definitely probably want to pay attention to this area on UJ, which is between 132.20 and 131.58. So it's a good about like 75 pip range of entry, but proper risk and you be Gucci. I would say an ideal target. But yeah, would love to see them trade back into that fair value gap here. Excuse me. And this would be the daily buy side that I would be attacking. Right? So, I mean, that in itself, if that became the type of position we're looking for, we're talking, oh, this is the 4 hour still. Right? So I'll pay attention to the time for sure, but this is, oh, look at that. On the hourly, you got double bottoms down here. Definitely gonna see them come get that. Right? So yeah, we saw them close above up here. So now, yeah, I would love to see a liquidity sweep down into this area. And depending on the time that it happened, I could take a good buy in this zone with my stop loss below the low. That's 44 pips. Take profit at the buy side liquidity. So yes, we'll put an alert on that one. Right. So yeah, we gonna be aware this week, man. Like I said, like I'm expecting of a bullish dollar, man. I feel like everybody's talking about bearish dollar. Even more reason I'm expecting a bullish dollar. GBP USD also giving lower lows, right? Giving lower lows here. So would not be surprised to go ahead and see them pull back into the premium, which is going to be the same area right here. Right, see them trade back into that and get a sell opportunity somehow, or not, right? Or not, you feel me? But I'm not forcing it with GU. None of these guys. Like, we looking at the 4 hour now to see them wick below this, but then close above. What they got going on? What they got going on, man? So yes, we gonna see. Yeah, we gonna see. Hmm. Oh yeah, Euro USD. It's looking the clearest because she's already closed below. Like I was looking at GU, I didn't like it because they kind of did similar. They wicked below this low over here. I mean that's continuation vibes as far as my I'm concerned when I trade. So looking at EU's already closed below these zones, right? I mean, yeah, they did wick here, but they've closed below this most recent zone. EU looked like she could be a little bit more ready to make that move than maybe a GU or an AU. AU looked like she was really consolidating, but yeah, so it's some interesting things going on the market. It's definitely going to be determined by what goes down with the dollar. So that's why I was very heavy on the dollar this week and just letting people know, like, yo, like it's you got to be aware of how this stuff works, instead of just instead of people just putting themselves in position, just to act, just to trade, you feel me, and not really understanding like what is governing the movements that are happening. So now you could repeat the process and see it over and over and over again because you have a step-by-step system, just like creating a recipe. So yeah, so yeah, I like what Euro USD got going on. Um, I'm gonna pay attention. That's all I got for them today. I'm gonna pay attention, right? Sometimes we can find some signals today and everything like that, but I'm gonna pay attention mode, to be frank. But that's all I got, man. I'm barely able to breathe. I would love to go a little longer, and really get into it, but I did my best with, my nasal system sinuses doing what they're doing. I'm like feel like I'm being drained of liquidity, literally. But with that being said, man, yo, I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely excited for the week. I'm not always the most excited for NFP weeks because I won't even really trade Friday like that, or I won't really trade Friday until after NFP. I say until after NFP, and my coaches have told me maybe just wait to trade until after after Wednesday, wait to trade. So trade up until Tuesday or Wednesday, and then wait until after NFP after that. But I haven't learned to listen to that yet. I haven't learned to listen to that yet, but definitely will be, keeping my eye out and seeing what's going on. For those of y'all who don't already, you could definitely go ahead and join the guild. We go live in there, every day, and we be on the markets, post market, live markets, all that jazz. You feel me? So feel free to go ahead, click the link below or click the link on the page. Go ahead and join the server. And that way you can also get access to the newsletter and everything that we're sending out to make sure that our community is really becoming profitable, really learning how to do this, not just for a good time, but for a long time, right, professionally. But with that being said, man, I appreciate you guys hopping on here. I'm gonna go get some Zyrtec or Claritin or something, and definitely excited for us to go ahead and be in the markets this week, really learn from it, of course, make money. Some people gonna get funded, but let's show up how we said we was gonna show up and continue to sharpen that skill. Don't let nobody tell you different. You feel me? So y'all have an amazing rest of your day. Peace.